Episode 138 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. How is everybody doing? Today's episode is a bit different from the usual. Today's episode is actually just going to be a recording of an online lesson that I gave to some students from Bath University the other day. So I think on a previous episode, I put out a sort of invitation if you had a group of people together and you'd like to have a sort of lesson from me. The only price you have to pay is to let me turn it into an episode of the Interpretation Station. These guys were up for that. And so we held an online lesson. We covered texts from French, Spanish, and Russian that were based on a Human Rights Council meeting. I think it was back in March on the situation in Ukraine. Also interspersed with that, I threw in a couple of segments of a Security Council meeting on Yemen. I will, as usual, put all the links to the transcripts and to the audios in the description box down below. And well, I will now just show you the recording then of that lesson. And so a big thanks to all those guys that attended. Off the top of my head, Todd, Ross, Gwen, Holly, Camilla, Margarita. I think there's one more. They're going to kill me. And Izzy. I think that was the 7 of them. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the episode. It's over to me again. So we'll start with this Venezuelan one. So the Venezuelans always really interesting texts. They're the ones with you always learn some new words from the Venezuelans. Them and the Cubans, they've always got some interesting stuff to say. So it's actually not a bad idea sometimes even just look. So this is the title page. So maybe Todd, you want to even just tell me what you read, just read the title page, because that often gives you some of the procedural vocabulary, which sometimes you tend to forget because you sometimes focus on just the nitty gritty of subject matter. But like if you're going to work at an institution, you need to actually know how to render sort of procedural stuff. So maybe you just want to start with that, Todd.
Okay. Intervention of the delegation of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela in the 49th session of the Council of Human Rights. Item 10. Oh.
Okay, go on, just finish the item, yeah.
Item 10, technical assistance and support building in the field of human rights.
Okay, so intervention, you can say sort of intervention, but your best word to go for, like with any of these, is a statement. Okay, that should be your go-to word. Okay, when here intervenir, intervention. I do sometimes say in the countries that made the previous intervention sometimes, but statement is the word you really want. Yeah, so you said the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, that's their full name. It's always useful to know. Sesión ordinaria, can anyone offer me? Do you know? It's not ordinary. Oh, no. It's the regular session of the Human Rights Council. So you want to get the wording of that institution right, the Human Rights Council. Sometimes they call it the HRC, the acronym. Then you said, what did you say? You said technical assistance. Okay. Item 10, tema 10. Okay, item, that's good. Okay, so fomento de la capacidad, again, is another one of those buzz phrases. And it means... Anyone?
I was saying it to mean a sort of development of capability.
Capacity building. Capacity building. Again, that's a really common buzz expression that you'll hear, not just at the UN, just generally in politics. I mean, there's always some capacity building. And go on then, Todd. Do you want to do and then the title here?
Interactive discussion for the oral presentation of the High Commission regarding the conclusions of the periodic report of the office about the situation, or regarding the situation for human rights in Ukraine, with the application of Resolution 47/22 of the Human Rights Council.
Okay, good. I'll just give me 1 second. I'm actually going to just download this page, because if I download it, then I can make markings on it. So just give me 1 second. It might be easier for me. Okay, hang on. Okay, can you see that now? Has a new share appeared?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It's been a while, so I've forgotten. So trying to remember how to do it. Okay, here we go. So what did you say? So the interactive dialogue for the oral presentation. Alta comisionada is a person. Okay, that's the High Commissioner, right? And you said on the conclusions, which is good. Also, a good useful report when you talk, a useful word when you talk about reports, are the findings. Okay, it's good, 2 synonyms to have: conclusions, findings. On the human rights situation in Ukraine, in applicación de la, we would probably in English say something like pursuant to Resolution 4. That's a good expression to remember again. Pursuant to a resolution. I'm just seeing. Actually, I've got the yeah. So this is actually the interactive dialogue on the High Commissioner's oral report on Ukraine. Do they give the exact wording in one of these? No, it doesn't look like it. But anyway, so yeah, pursuant to is the sort of very official wording that they give you at the UN. Resolution 14, you can just say 47/22 of the Human Rights Council. All right then, well done, Todd. So, okay, let's start the actual statement, and shall we? So who has got, okay, Holly, you've got Spanish, right?
Yes, I do.
Go for it.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 10.
Okay, I should point out, because it's not, I mean, yes, so the Human Rights Council has a president. So
Okay.
I should probably, so the big ones tend to have presidents, right? The Security Council, the General Assembly, and the Human Rights Council have presidents. Otherwise, it's generally chairs, chairman, chairwomen. It's easier. I find it's often just easier to say chair. Getting the gender wrong, you can just say chair. But, so anyway, but the council, the Human Rights Council, has a president. Okay, Holly, on you go.
Item 10 on the agenda of the Human Rights Council was very well conceived to tackle the issue of technical aid and capacity building. I'm not sure about con el concurso.
Have a guess.
What's happening? I don't know. In the post.
Anyone would like to offer an alternative?
With regards to?
Not quite that. It's really just with the assistance together with the country concerned. And just, okay, I've stopped there. So item 10 of the agenda of the Human Rights Councils was, well, okay, you said conceived, well designed, you said abordar, that's good, to tackle, to address, technical assistance and capacity building. You said technical assistance, right? You said aid. Did you say aid?
I think I
okay,
said aid.
It's called technical assistance, okay. Yeah, technical assistance and capacity building with the assistance of the country concerned, and go on from there.
In order to contribute to the improvement of the situation, the human rights situation, through genuine dialogue and and cooperation, fundamental pillars of the work of this council.
Okay. To contribute, to sometimes help is a bit quicker to say than contribute, 1 syllable versus 3, but to improve the human rights situation through genuine dialogue and cooperation. Fundamental pillars, again, one thing, again, fundamental is quite a long word, four syllables. So sometimes I'll say core. Core is really good because it's just one syllable and it means exact same thing pretty much. Core pillars of the work of this council. One other thing I'll say also, especially this is particularly applicable to Spanish, is these long sentences. Okay, look, that's all one sentence, right? So when you you're reading this out, so you're saying, okay, item 10 of the agenda of the Human Rights Council was well designed to address technical assistance and capacity with the assistance of the country concerned. Now that's a sentence you've actually just said. If you were to put a full stop just there after what you've just said, that's actually a sentence. So I could continue then by going, and this to contribute to improve the human rights situation through genuine dialogue and cooperation, core pillars of the work of this council. So one thing I always tell people with Spanish is to try and when they, to break up sentences. It can really help. Not always. I mean, maybe this is the start. Maybe you're feeling absolutely fine. You're flying along. You would just say, in order to contribute to improve the human rights situation. But just be aware, again, especially with Spanish, that it is often a wise idea to break up longer sentences into more manageable chunks. Because if you lose the second half of the sentence, if you get lost, you kind of cancel out all the hard work you did in the first half, because then our listener's going to be sort of, logically saying, okay, this has happened in order for something else to happen. And if he doesn't hear what the hoped for result is after the in order to, you're gonna wreck the whole idea. So by splitting up like that, at least for certain you've got one half of the message across in case something goes wrong in the second half. Okay, let's try. So who else has Spanish then? Does Margarita, do you have Spanish? Oh,
Yes.
okay, Camilla, why don't you try?
We regret that the initiatives under this item the initiatives under this promoted under this item completely distance themselves from the clear outlines. Taking the path of politicization of our work, which also caused the former Human Rights Commission to fail.
Okay, so you're getting the message across well. Now, the only thing is that obviously when you were interpreting, we don't have the luxury of sort of waiting till the end of clauses, always to hear what the noun is, to then, use the noun, which in Spanish appears at the end of the clause, and for us then to use it at the start, which would be more like what we do in English. So you need to sort of practice being able to play around with the syntax as you're going along. That's why the Citon translations are really good for this. Okay, so we'll go through this and show you what I mean. So I said, okay, we regret that. Okay, and then just under this theme. Now the problem here is how to turn this. Promuevan iniciativas totalmente alejadas, let's say. How can you put that little expression by starting it with the promote? Because what you said was that these initiatives are being promoted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe maybe if you're feeling good again and confident, you've got the confidence to memorize the promote and then tag it on at the end. But tell you what, with the Venezuelans, I don't know if you've heard them speak, they tend to speak very quickly. And it's one of the ones I feel a bit of pressure on when I'm also doing, because there are some delegations that just play it completely by the book when they say, but like the Venezuelans are the sort of delegation that might complain if their message doesn't get properly conveyed to the audience. So you are going to feel under a little bit of pressure. When you're under pressure, you're going to be wanting to process those words as fast as you can. So how might you turn se promuevan into making that like the subject?
I could perhaps say that this item promotes initiatives that are totally or completely distanced.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That wasn't what I was going to say, but actually, we regret this item is promoting. That's actually a good idea. That certainly works, actually. Okay, that's good. So what I was going to say is with this sort of thing, I often say there is, okay? Turning the promuevan, where I turn the verb into a noun. So there's been the promotion, there is the promotion of initiatives that are totally alien to the clear parameters. That's my sort of stock solution for that sort of thing. Or another thing I might sometimes say is we regret that under this item, we see the promotion of initiatives totally alien, okay? So those are sort of the two. So we'll probably come across something else, something similar, but to turn the idea is to turn that reflexive verb into a there is plus noun, okay?
That was my first instinct. I was just trying to keep it shorter.
Right. Okay. So let's see. You said under this thing, there's promotion initiatives totally. Well, I can't remember. You said this. What did you say for alejadas?
I think it distances.
This, yeah. I don't know if that sounds right. That totally, say, alien or that.
You say far removed or something?
Far removed. That's nice. Yeah, that have little to do with something along those lines. Far removed. Yep. And then parametros. Just don't play around with it. Just parameters. From the clear parameters. From those clear parameters. Abonando el camino. Can we have a sort of phrase in English that would be a sort of close match?
Taking the path of?
Paving the way for, I think in English, for politicization of our work, okay. And then que hicieron sucumbir a la extinta Comisión de Derechos Humanos. So the Human Rights Commission, by the way, was the forerunner to the Human Rights Council. And so that basically, I don't know when they scrapped it back in 2005 or something like that. So what did you say for hicieron sucumbir? Camilla, just give me another.
Caused the former Human Rights Commission to fail.
Caused the failure. Okay, so yeah, if you can't think of something really nice, think of something just that's simple that gets the message across like that caused the failure, that led to the failure of so in English we might say the old Human Rights Commission or the defunct Human Rights Commission. Yeah, defunct. I was going to give you a nice solution for hicieron sucumbir, which was the downfall of, for example. All right. Why don't you try the next sentence as well, Camilla?
Okay. We reiterate that the initiatives based on motivations aimed towards politicization, selectivity, and double standards do not contribute at all to the promotion and protection of human rights in the world, and do not offer any benefit in favor of the persons or groups that are vulnerable.
Okay, good. So yeah, based on fundadas, you said based on motivations aimed at politicization. I mean, yes, this signada is the word that might throw you just in that moment. Like, I suppose you could say motivation marked by politicization. Again, I thought about this. I think in English we might talk about motivations that smack of politicization. But again, it's unlikely that's going to come to you in the heat of the moment. But just remember the word anyway. Just say that Interpretation Station episode 137. That word came up, and you never know. Keep every now and then it'll pop up, it come into your head, and when you say something, this resolution, smacks. This smacks of hypocrisy. This smacks of ill will. Whatever.
Can I ask a question? Would a phrase like "smack of" would that be too? I would see that as more casual. Do you I
think politician. I don't know. I don't think it's slang.
Yeah,
I think it's okay. It's I can imagine sort of that being used in the media by politicians. I think
is that your general kind of standards? Do
I
you
would,
think, oh,
I
if
would use
someone
it.
would use it
Yeah,
on
yeah,
telly?
yeah.
Yeah.
Not the
Okay.
sun, maybe, but like if I'd say smack of, I think would be
Okay.
okay. I think we talk about things, it smacks of hypocrisy. I think that's something you'd hear quite a bit on the news there. Okay, so this is something they always talk about. This is a big issue. The Venezuela's, the Russia, whatever. They talk about politicization, selectivity, double standards. And what do you say they do? They do nothing to contribute to, promotion and protection of human rights. That's very much a set expression, around the world. They provide no, what did you say? You just said benefit, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And you said in favor of vulnerable people or groups. I was going to say in favor, in English would probably be better to say for the benefit of, but okay, you've just said benefit here. So maybe, just so as not to keep saying benefit. Provide no advantage for the benefit of vulnerable people or groups. And I was just going to say, again, look out for moments where in these two paragraphs, where you might be able to break up sentences, here for, abona, they promote initiatives totally alien to those clear parameters. This paves the way for politicization of our work, which led to the downfall of the Human Rights Commission. And here, with the initiative based on the sector and no we contribute most protection of human rights in the world. Here, you might break up the sentence as well. That you say they in no way contribute to promotion and protection of human rights in the world, and they provide no benefit to vulnerable people or groups. Is there anyone else out there who has Spanish? Is it the 6 of us at the moment? Oh no, we've got.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Where's the other page? I've got Rosario. I forgot about your mother page, so I didn't. Right, Rosario, have you got Spanish? No. Okay,
No, just Russian.
Just the Russian.
Izzy.
I have
Izzy, how are
Yeah.
you, Izzy?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Why don't you then give this a try?
I'll give it a go. Let's reaffirm the necessity to defend universal, indivisible, interdependent, and interrelated human rights. We must do this in a constructive way and on the basis of genuine dialogue and cooperation. We must reject the use of such cared for spaces, such as the council, such as in the case of item 10 on the agenda, with very different ends from those by which it was created.
Okay, good try. And this is another long sentence. Okay. Yeah, we reaffirmed the need. Yeah, the necessity, the need. Defender. I think we talk more about protecting rights generally. That's just it's good to have that as your sort of go-to collocation, protecting human rights. And then and then you have this whole string of adjectives here. Because maybe you've said, maybe you've heard defender los derechos humanos, maybe you've just gone and immediately said to protect human rights, and then you realize you've got all these adjectives coming up. And so the way you do that, so as not to correct yourself, you could say, we reaffirm the need to protect human rights, universal, indivisible, interdependent, and interrelated rights. Right. So that's if you have, obviously going to run into this with Spanish and French, where you think that they've finished saying what they have to say, but then all these adjectives are suddenly strung along at the end. So you need to be able to incorporate those adjectives, or as some of them, but still sounding smooth. So that's the best, at least for me, that's the best that's the technique I use. You just repeat the noun after it, and it just sounds like you're giving added emphasis. And to do so constructively on the basis of genuine dialogue and cooperation. So yeah, I think were you thinking about do I stop the sentence here? Because this is a perfect opportunity to just stop a sentence. Okay, por lo que rechazas, and that's why Okay, so I like. So you said that's why we. What did you say? We reject the use. Is that what you said?
Yeah, rejects
Okay, so
the
you
use, I think.
right. So you turn that reflexive utilicen into a noun, which is what I suggested earlier on. So which is good. We reject the use of one other thing here. You could just say which is why we are against. For rechazamos, we're against using.
Yeah, I got really
Espacio-
stuck on espacios cuidados.
Cardosa. I think really you see such important spaces, such important fora. Fora is perhaps better than spaces, which is why we're against using such important fora, such precious fora as the council, as in under item 10 of the agenda, with goals very different to those, or ends, I suppose we say in English, to those for which they were created. And go on, Izzy, do the last paragraph as well.
Human rights issues must be tackled in this council with transparency, objectivity, and impartiality. They must be tackled with full respect towards the aims and principles on the UN Charter.
Okay. Yeah, so issues
Forgot the
might
name
be
of the
tackled
charter.
again, addressed. Yeah. In this council with transparency, objectivity, and impartiality. So again, this is a major thing that they're always saying. This is one of the, that's why the council was created, to address these issues with those, transparency, objectivity, and impartiality. And then, with full respect. Maybe you can see, if you want to break the sentence up, you might say this with this in full respect, and this is an important phrase. Okay. The purposes and principles. So this is from the UN Charter. One of the most important chapters in the Charter are the purposes and principles. Okay, so you'll want to remember that. Purposes. And for consagrados, the best word, enshrined. Okay, enshrined in the Charter. Set forth in the Charter, laid out in the Charter. But there's quite a lot of almost set language in this statement that's useful to know. This was Luxembourg. Okay, so let's have one of the others to start then. Maybe Rosario, you would like to start here. So you got French and Russian, right?
No, sorry, Italian and Russian. I do speak French.
You're the one with Italian, okay.
Yeah.
Right, you got Italian and Russian, okay. In that case, okay, we'll definitely have you on for the Russian, Rosario, don't worry. Okay.
I'll have a crack at the French one,
yes.
if nobody else wants to.
You have a crack at the French, yes.
So could I double check? You said it was the General Assembly, the Human Rights Council, and what are the third one with the President?
The Security Council.
Security Council. Okay. That's come up like
Council.
Time and time again. And at first we got told to always do it as chairperson, and then we were like, hang on, there are exceptions.
Yeah. Those three are. There are. I mean, there are a couple of others, but those are the ones that are generally president. That was always president anyway. Those are the important ones to remember.
Okay.
And then yes, if you're not certain, you see. Well, if you're really not certain, one other thing is you say sir. Okay, well, if you know who is sir, madam, that way you don't have to say, yeah. That's really non-committal. So. Okay, so give this a try. Oh, just tell me what you think here. Okay, what would I say for this? Représentation permanente. This is a bit more procedure.
Yeah, well, they have I know the person is the permanent representative. So
okay,
would permanent representation?
No.
Be okay? No.
No. Anyone else want to offer an alternative? The mission, okay, the permanent mission to the UN. Yeah. And sometimes, the permanent. You're right about the permanent representative. Sometimes you'll hear them being called the PR. Okay. Sometimes you'll hear it called the perm rep. So those are a couple of the variations that you might run into.
So sorry, Roland, is it when it's a person, it's the permanent representative, but when it's the
Yes.
body, it's the permanent
Mission.
Okay,
Permanent mission, yeah.
that's not confusing at all.
And most of them have that, but because you have all these other international organizations in Geneva. So the perm rep will tend to be the perm rep to, well, if it's to Geneva, UNOG. So in the UN in Geneva is called UNOG. Did you know that? UN office in Geneva, Vienna UNOV, Nairobi UNON, and then it's and other international organizations in Geneva. Okay, on you go.
From the stop, I could go from the top line.
Yeah, just start from Monsieur le Président.
Oh, okay. Mr. President, Luxembourg signs up to the European Union Declaration, or the declaration presented by the European Union.
There's a short sentence, but it's got some very useful, just again, procedural stuff that you want to have down pat, because this is a thing they'll say all the time, okay? Because what happens is often in these meetings, the EU will deliver a statement on behalf of the whole of the EU countries, and then you'll have the other countries in their national capacity then saying, you know, we associé à la déclaration. Now, what I tend to say is I align with. I would here say Luxembourg aligns with the statement, okay, for déclaration delivered. Luxembourg aligns with a statement delivered by the EU.
By the EU.
That's the most nice sort of highest register.
Yeah. So Luxembourg allies it. It's more than a month now that Russia has continued or pursued its campaign of aggression and devastation in Ukraine. Each day we bear witness to new horrors, continuous and targeted bombings of residential zones, attacks against hospitals, schools, the intentional destruction of civilian infrastructure.
Okay, that just hang on a sec. That's good, I think, actually. It's been for over a month. Russia has, for poursuivre, often I think just pursue its campaign of aggression, devastation in Ukraine. Every day we've witnessed new horrors. Continue et ciblé. I'll say ongoing. Ongoing is a good word for continue. Ongoing, targeted. You say bombing, yeah?
Bombings.
Another very good word to have under these circumstances is shelling. Okay, that's what they'll often talk about, shelling. Bombing here would be fine, but just remember shelling. Shelling tends to be ground to ground, air strikes from above. So these are good words just to be aware of. Attacks, residential. So I'll tend to talk about residential areas. Okay, residential. So ongoing targeted shelling of residential areas, attacks against hospitals, schools, intentional or deliberate destruction of civilian infrastructure. Okay, go on.
These human rights violations, these violations of human rights and international law have been reported to us through the vital and brave work of I found the word monitoring mission. Is that the official?
Yeah, I think it's the monitor. Yeah. I think it's the monitoring mission. Yeah.
Of the monitoring mission of human rights for the UN that we fully support.
Okay. Let me just. So interesting. So it's kind of takes me back to what I said during the Spanish statement. Okay. Ces violations des droits humains. Now, maybe you say here, these human rights violations, and then you hear this et du droit international, and you think, oh shit, I should have waited. But again, what you do here, you just say these violations of human rights. Oh no, what do we say? These human rights violations these violations, then you maybe repeat these violations of international law. So again, it's always better, you want to avoid correcting yourself when you're interpreting. You want to make the reader, the listener, think that everything's coming out smoothly and deliberately. Have been reported to us through the crucial, brave work of I think it's the Human Rights Monitoring Mission, the HRMM. I think that's what the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission, which we support fully. Go on, and you can do the next paragraph as well.
For 8 years, this monitoring mission has alerted us to repeated violations of human rights committed by Russia. For 8 years, we have many times over denounced the serious and systematic violations of human rights, notably in Crimea and the Donbass, only to be met with the Russians' refusal to compromise.
You're overthinking it.
Okay, the Russian inflexibility.
Still overthinking it.
No Russian compromise.
No.
Intransigent. Oh, you could just use that. Okay, intransigent. Yeah. Russian intransigent.
Intransigent.
It was there on the paper.
It was there, yeah. Just stylistically, okay, because you've already mentioned the mission, you don't need to mention the fact it's the monitoring mission again, okay? Just for 8 years, the mission, we now know it's that mission. Where was it? This one. So, okay, even though the speaker says it, you don't need to, because everyone knows what mission they're talking about. Has, what did you say, alerted us to, has shared with us, has reported on repeated violations of human rights perpetrated by Russia. Perpetrated, committed, you want to remember those two synonyms, that's would be very useful. For 8 years, we have a maintes reprises. It's a very high register way of just saying frequently. The first time I heard it work, I was like, ooh, what's that? And then, yeah, this is, I don't think you'll hear that much in regular spoken French. I think that's something that's a pretty high register. Dénoncer des graves violations graves et systématiques. Now, I think that's just the way the French say, so it has condemned, maybe condemned grave and systematic violation. But I also think they just say it like when we would say report, has flagged up, has reported on. So I don't, I say I'm not a French native speaker, but I don't feel completely obliged to convey the idea of condemnation, because I think they'll often just say it in the way we would report or flag up. Are there any French native speakers among you who might want to correct me? No? Okay. Grave systematic violations of human rights, notably, like, that's just like including in particularly in Crimea, the Donbass, only to be met with, only to run into Russian intransigence. So yeah, stubborn. The Russians, they won't help out. Okay, let's try then. Who wants to try? Give me a volunteer. Todd, are we back to you? Have you got the French? No, you haven't got French.
It's just me and Holly that have French now, I think.
Okay.
In this group.
Let's go back to you. Or Holly. Holly, where's Holly?
At present and for a month now, we have been seeing a disastrous humanitarian tragedy. Each day that passes, the number of innocent victims grows. Women, children, elderly people. We call on Russia to fully respect the principles of humanitarian law and to allow the unfiltered access of humanitarian access to people in need.
Okay. We have, so for assistant, the word I usually just go for is witness. So we've witnessed a disastrous humanitarian tragedy, devastating, disastrous. Yeah, with each, what do we say? With each passing day, the number of innocent victims grows. Women, children. I guess we just say the elderly, personnes âgées, the elderly. Nous appelons la Russie. What did you say? We call on, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, we call, we urge, if you want something different, we call and we urge Russia to fully respect principles of humanitarian law and enable. Okay, this is an important, a very important little expression. L'accès sans entrave. You said unfiltered. Can someone give me maybe a slightly better alternative?
Unhindered.
Okay, very good. Unhindered, unimpeded. So this is, I bang on about this all the time in my episodes. Like, I have so you want to remember these words as in a package, like hamper, hinder, impede. Okay, H and I, hamper, hinder, and impede. Also obstruct, if you like. But yeah, usually we talk about unimpeded access, unhindered access. For humanitarian, I could tell you were hesitating over whether to say actors, but I think actors is fine, actually. Sometimes, often the best solution for actor is also stakeholders. You want to remember that expression, okay, for you and stakeholders. To persons, to people in need. Okay. Okay. Just do the first sentence then of the next paragraph, Holly.
Each state, in line with the UN Charter, must respect the inalienable obligations.
Okay. What do you say? In line with the charter, or again? So
Yeah.
This is like pursuant to. Again, this is very much wording from the charter en vertu de, pursuant to, in line with, consistent with, in keeping with. So remember, you want to have a few different options for that. This is actually, I don't know who actually did the notes for this. This was a colleague of mine. I think I just took this statement out the bin. It had already been done. So that's a very good, often, if you read the UN Charter, and I would, if you're going to go and if you're going to go and do an internship at the UN, I would actually highly recommend that you read the charter before you go to just in English. I don't think you need to go all out, but just to be familiar with the language that's used in it. It can be of great help. And then ultimately, if you ever want to get around taking the test and things for the UN, then you definitely want to read the charter in the various languages that you're working in. But undertakes to, commits to, respecting inalienable obligations, and then we'll go back to Gwen. Tant que les hommes, femmes. Gwen, you're muted.
Sorry, classic. So long as men, women, and children in Ukraine cannot escape the reprehensible attacks of artillery and missiles by Russia, the Russian government is concretely not accepting fulfilling its own commitments.
Okay. Let me just stop because it's quite a tricky sentence. It's tant que les, and it's like so he's saying while men, women, and children, Ukrainian women and children, aren't escaping the appalling, the reprehensible, the dastardly artillery attacks and Russian missiles, the Russian government's is clearly not, let's say, living up to its own commitments, clearly not delivering on its own commitments, not shouldering its own commitments. Now, this is a tricky sentence because whenever I hear a sentence like that starts with tant que, it starts like, I think, oh God, this is going to be tricky because it's going to be basically comparing, setting two ideas against each other. You're going to hear that something's happening on the one side as compared to something that's happening on the other side. So, I mean, if you're worried that you might get lost in that sentence, so one thing you do is you just skip the ton que and you just go, okay, you just make it an affirmative sentence. You know, men, women, and Ukrainian children cannot escape the dastardly artillery attacks and Russian missiles. Then you hear le gouvernement russe. This is the other side of the equation. Meanwhile, the Russian government is clearly not living up to its own commitments. Again, there's just a little technique when you have those structures, like in French, sometimes it'll be a si. The sentence will start with si, but it won't be an if thing. It will be like while. Si nous comprenons les raisons pourquoi ils ont fait ça, en même temps, nous condamnons le fait que, and that si, you don't know if it's going to be like a while clause or an if clause. And so one thing you can do is you just sort of get rid of the si and you just do an affirmative, and then you just shape the rest of the sentence accordingly. For example, if it's one of those questions like, okay, while we support the fact that they've done this, we condemn the fact they haven't done more in this area. And you would say, for example, rather than saying while we support, we just say we support what they've done in this area. And then you realize it's like one of those sort of while clauses. And then you just say, but we condemn the fact they've done this. So you're turning it into two shorter, more manageable sentences rather than sort of this longer, while we support what they're doing here, we condemn what they're doing here. So again, that's just another technique for those kinds of clauses. Okay. And just do the final sentence then. Il revient à la communauté internationale.
It remains for the international community to recall the unchanging character of these obligations and to condemn Russia so long as, whilst it does not deliver on its own commitments on these responsibilities.
Okay. Il revient à is a very high register way of saying, so I would probably say here, I don't know, the onus is on the international community. The international community is duty bound to do something. Okay. So that il revient à, it sort of has that idea of there being a sort of obligation on the international community to recall the unchanging character, maybe nature, sounds maybe a bit more English, nature of these obligations. I'm just trying to think of another better word for immuable, the sacrosanct, the immutable, unchanging is maybe the best, these obligations, and to condemn Russia until as long as it fails to live up to its responsibilities and as long as it fails to shoulder its responsibilities. I thank you. But maybe we'll just do for 5 minutes. What I did, I had a sort of spill, just in case I had a sort of spillover alternative. I found this statement from the Security Council. Hang on, let me go and share it. Let's share the page. Okay. This is a situation in Yemen, which is not something I've actually been exposed to very much. I haven't done much on Yemen, but just for a bit of a laugh. Where is it was the French, the Gabon that was going to speak. Okay, so just for you just for the French speakers, just 5 minutes, just try doing this, and we'll go back to Izzy.
Yeah.
Can you see where we are? Madame Bongo Gabon.
Okay. I'd like to thank the Special Envoy, Hans Grunberg, and the Deputy Secretary
You're not going to get this. You're not going to get that. But go on, just finish the sentence.
Joyce Msuya for their strengthening statements.
Okay. Yeah, statement. Good. I'm glad you said statements for intervention. So again, this is something they'll say all the time. Okay, so everyone, this is a typical thing that they'll say. So the one thing I'll say, like, you just want to cut a couple of adjectives. You want to sort of step away from trying to exactly trying to reflect the original word in the French and just think what you'd actually typically say in English. So we would probably say they're thought-provoking, they're informative statements, something like that. Have two or three sort of alternatives, versatile alternatives that you can just use when you're wanting to complement a speaker, a presenter. So I want to thank you for your thought-provoking statement, for your very interesting statement, whatever. So yeah, this is a procedure. So at the UN, so its sous-secrétaire général is the ASG, the Assistant Secretary General, and you have lots of different ASGs. They're like the cabinet, if you like, at the UN. All these various USGs and ASGs. Okay, so just go on a little bit further, Izzy. Je salue.
I'd like to thank the permanent representative of Yemen for being here today with us.
Just you don't need to put. I notice you like to. You like to do things. Just keep it simple. You don't have to like. As you said, I'd like to thank the special envoy. I thank the special envoy. I welcome the presence among us of the permanent representative. So don't use words that you don't need to.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't throw in additional words. Okay. And Holly, do you want to just do a bit of this paragraph? La trêve. Does anyone know trêve?
Truce.
Yes. Who said that?
Me. I did look it up.
Well done. The truce. Okay. The truce. That's an important word to know. Yeah. Go on, Holly.
That started on June 2nd.
Proroger. This is an important procedural word. Anybody?
Extended or delayed?
Exactly. Yes, extended. Yep. They always talk about prorogation des résolutions, things. Okay, so the truce extended. Yeah.
Extended. On the 2nd of June, I don't know whether last year or I guess.
Oh, just on. Okay, so that's a bit confusing in French. Just so when you hear dernier, that just means it was just now, the second of June that just passed. Yeah, so you just leave out the okay. That's a thing in French, I think, that can be a bit confusing initially. So that was extended on the 2nd of June.
For 2 more months.
I think if they were say last year, they'd say de l'année passée, de l'année dernière.
For 2 more months is a good step towards the desired ceasefire, the ceasefire that's desired by the international community and by civilian populations in Yemen.
Okay. Attendu par.
I guess just wanted by, or like they're waiting
expected by. Okay, and can you just do finish the paragraph?
It is important to remember that peace in Yemen depends on finding a political ruling that will happen through inclusive dialogue and sustainable dialogue, which will be done constructively, which will constructively take all the different fragments of this country.
Okay, let's just break that down. So I like en effet, that's really an expression you use, drop, and that does nothing, so it's important to recall that peace in Yemen, what did you say? You said depends on the search. You said depends, or lies in the search for so règlement politique, that's a very important expression, okay? Political settlement, political resolution, okay? You want to remember those two words. Qui passe par un dialogue inclusif, which requires, that's again an expression, they'll use that passe par in French, they'll use that a lot, which requires inclusive, I think you said sustainable dialogue, right?
Yeah.
That's often the best solution for durable. They talk about the ODD, the Objectif de Développement Durable, sustainable. So that's a good. So something they talk about paix durable. It's better to say a lasting peace. But in pretty much other stuff other than peace, sustainable is often the best word. Auquel prendrait part de manière constructive, in which all the various fragments of the country would participate in constructively. Okay. Let's go to the Russian then. Okay. So if we go back to the original PDF I sent you. So this was Belarus. I was going to send you the Russian statement from this meeting, but I'd actually already made an episode from it. I don't know if there was an episode quite recently that I did, and it's the Russians listing a lot of the incidents that are taking place on the battlefield, as it were, with dates and locations. I don't know if any of you Russisons saw it, maybe. No? Later. Okay, so who have we not heard much of from Rosario?
Yeah, I'll start off. I don't mind.
You want to start us off, right?
Okay. Do you want me to do the title or anything, or just start from Gandhi?
Go on, give me the title, just to remember. So maybe it's sometimes good just to, develop some familiarity with the wording that they use. So go for it.
Yeah. So the 49th session of the UN Human Rights Council. What did we say? Not point of the agenda. It's,
no.
It's, I've forgotten what the word was.
Item.
Item. That's it. Thanks.
Begins with I.
Yeah, item. Yeah. Item 10 of the agenda. Interactive dialogue based on the oral report on Ukraine.
That's it. That's right. Oral, not verbal, but oral. So I mean, I know in my early on, I was maybe mixing them up. Sometimes saying oral, sometimes saying verbal.
Yeah.
But it's oral, very much oral.
Yeah. Statement by the representative from Belarus. Would you say? Yes. Would you say the Republic of Belarus, or is it just Belarus?
Okay, that's a good question. Probably not. If I'm doing a statement, there's a couple of exceptions. So, fun enough, for the Venezuelans, okay, so their constitutional name is the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and I sometimes get the feeling that they like to hear that being said, the whole thing, at least the first. So what I'll do is maybe the first time I'll give them their Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and then after that I'll just refer to them as Venezuela. Maybe Iran as well, the Islamic Republic of Iran, I might give them that full name. Russian Federation, maybe the first. I'm not too, I don't think they're that hung up over it. So yeah, generally I would say no, I wouldn't bother like saying the Republic of whatever, but there's just a few sort of situations where it might win you a brownie point somewhere.
Okay, so for many years, the discussion of the situation in Ukraine has been politicized.
Mm-hmm.
Very seldom in this room have we heard someone reminisce about or remember the Minsk agreements and committed to fulfilling them conscientiously, or to honestly fulfilling them.
Oh, okay. Let's see. That's good. For long years. I would just sort of Vitamzalia, if you want just to sort of the word I would usually just go for is in this chamber, because usually the human rights chamber, it's really is a sort of chamber. So that's just generally, yeah. I guess some of them are rooms, chambers. But if you're in the Human Rights Council, it's in the chamber. Has anyone, I've wspominał, I guess, just remembered about the Minsk Accords, the Minsk agreements, or called for, prizywał, just called for, or urged, again, urged their dobrosовестно выполнение. So again, you want to turn this really into a noun, really, for their scrupulous implementation, let's say.
Yeah. They're scrupulous.
Scrupulous, yeah. I find it very difficult to say that word. Scrupulous. That's the one thing that, yeah. They're bona fide. Sometimes bona fide is also works with dobrosовестно.
Okay.
Bona fide implementation.
The current events in Ukraine are a consequence of indifference by the indifference of the council to issues that have been reported on by the OHCHR monitoring mission.
Okay, so that's good. So what you say, current events are consequence, в том числе. So one thing we'll say a lot at the UN, like inter alia. Have you heard people saying inter alia?
Yeah, I think in this case it was almost something you can. I don't know if you think this, but it's something you can almost omit because it's something.
Here, Here. You probably could get away with it, but just know that expression here, inter alia, well, among other things. I like how, okay, so you said the indifference. So it's good that you didn't basically render отношения. So it's just the indifference, the counts, the problems that have been, what do you say, reported on, right, for Subshala, that have again been flagged up by the monitoring mission. And just, you want to reckon UVKPC, okay? So you know what that is in English? Does anyone know what that is in English? I see Camilla nodding. So what's that in English?
OHCHR, but I think Ross said
Very
it.
good.
Yeah.
Did he say OHCHR? OHCHR.
Yeah,
Not to be confused. Yeah, that's good. OHCHR. Yeah. Not to be confused with UVKB. UVKB.
UNHCR.
Which is exactly bеженцев. Okay, so those, I used to get those two confused. I say I used to. Has it? Maybe I still do every now and then. Okay. Go on. Do another paragraph, Rosario.
This discussion brings up or reiterates the past mistakes.
Or is a repeat of the mistakes of the past.
Repeat, yeah. Currently, what is important are what is important are not the aggressive statements, but efforts aimed at facilitating prompt political and diplomatic settlement of conflict in Ukraine.
Very good. That's good, actually. Yeah. Сейчас важно. So when you have that, when you hear an adjective right at the beginning of a sentence in Russian, that's one thing I'll often immediately do is say, "What's important?" So that's you did that, didn't you, Rosario? That's what you said, right?
Yeah, no. I when I've watched some of your episodes before, I've heard that's kind of like one of your little tricks to kind of what is or something.
Yeah,
like
that's quite an important thing in Russian, really, to be able to do. Yeah. So what's important are not aggressive state заявления, or if you want as something different from statement. I mean, sometimes we might say in English pronouncements. When someone's, all these pronouncements politicians say, there's the connotation, I think, when we say pronouncement in English, that it's something that's going over the top. But anyway, just that word, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just have it somewhere, pop it somewhere in the back of your mind. maybe you can pull it out one day if you have to do a test for the UN, a competitive exam. So what's important are not aggressive pronouncements, shall we say. Efforts geared towards, so often I'll talk about things being geared towards. That's an expression I'll use a lot. You said aimed at. Содействовать. You said facilitating, that's good. Facilitating a swift political, diplomatic, what did you say for урегулирование?
To settle conflict, settlement.
Yeah, political, diplomatic settlement. So again, settlement or resolution are the two synonyms that you want there in Ukraine. Also, so this содействовать, you have this other verb that's quite similar in Russian, right? Способствовать. So whenever if I hear способствовать, I'll say contribute to. When I hear содействовать, I'll say facilitate. That's just how I like to pigeonhole the two verbs. So I sometimes like in my head, I like to have things arranged like that sometimes. So okay, shall we go to Camilla?
I think there's also Margarita. She hasn't had a go yet.
Oh, Margarita. That's because you're not all appearing at the same time on the screen. So are you there, Margarita? Yes, Margarita. Yes. Sorry, I wasn't ignoring you deliberately. It's all yours.
We are concerned about the worsening humanitarian situation in the country and victims among civilians. We are also concerned about involuntary detentions of civilians in war zones.
Okay, that's very good. Maybe also Bispacone, we're concerned by. I'm often troubled by things. Things trouble me as well, by the deteriorating humanitarian situation in the country and victims among civilians. One thing, yeah, often in Russian, they often talk about мирные жители, мирного населения, and I would often I often won't render them мирные. I'll just say civilians. That's a tip someone gave me, is just to say civilian, peaceful civilians. We're also concerned by what did you say for, you said?
Detentions?
What sort of detention did you say?
Against their will, I guess, against their will.
Okay. I mean, whatever you said, it was fine. It was good. I just can't remember the exact wording used. The detention of civilians against their will. And I like what you said here, в зонах боевых действий, in war zones. That's really good, actually. I really like that. Often боевые действия. I'll often render боевые действия as hostilities. Okay, but in zona боевых действий, I think in English that really is the best maybe solution at war zone. Okay, and carry on actually. You would?
We regret that the Ukrainian authorities refused to organize a humanitarian corridor to Belarus for the return of our citizens.
Yeah, towards Belarus, maybe you would say.
The situation regarding the involuntary detentions of Belarusian drivers and illegal seizure of Belarusian road and railway trains is intolerable.
No, okay. All good. All the words are good.
Unacceptable.
But how are you gonna? How are you going to start the sentence? For me, I like, as I say, to just process words more or less immediately, and I don't like having to memorize words. I try and avoid it if I can, generally. So how can you turn the sentence into shape it in such a way whereas you get rid of the nite pimoy pretty much straight from the outset?
It is unacceptable that Belarusian car drivers are being detained against their will, and Belarusian.
Okay, so you're probably better off using the tactic that Rosario used. So what's intolerable? What's intolerable is the situation with the involuntary detention of Belarusian drivers. Okay, it's so let me just make it clear. It's not Shakespearean English when you do it that way. Okay, but it sounds fine. It sounds okay, and that's the most important thing. The listener will understand what's unacceptable, and it's just the easiest way of processing it, basically, and it allows you to just follow the rest of the syntax. So what's unacceptable is a situation with the involuntary detention of Belarusian drivers, the unlawful seizure, illegal or unlawful seizure of Belarusian trains, and what did you say for железнодорожных составов?
I said road and railway trains, but I Googled it before. I didn't know what afterwards was even in Russian. I wasn't sure. I said railway and road and railway trains.
Okay, is the start? Okay, it's not the crew that they're talking about.
No, I think it's about the actual
okay,
train.
it's just the trains. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Okay, go on and finish the paragraph.
We urge Kiev to fulfill their commitments, including those enshrined in the Hague and Geneva Conventions.
Okay, fulfill their commitments, deliver on, live up to their commitments, including just under, you can say under the Hague and Geneva Conventions. Okay. Can you still see the screen, or has the screen disappeared? Or should we have for Camilla? How many? You've done 2 paragraphs now, right? Yeah. Let's go to Camilla.
Okay.
Наконец.
Finally, those countries that still link Belarus with the conflict in Ukraine, we'd like to reiterate that the Belarusian armed forces do not participate in it. Do not try to transfer your responsibility, including the supply of lethal weapons and mercenaries in the conflict, in the conflict zone or in the war zone, which will definitely not bring us any closer to peace on Ukrainian soil.
Okay, so yeah, certain countries don't get thrown. By the way, you obviously hear it. It's the instrumental plural. Often, again, it's just best, as you did, is just to process the words, and then you just, as the sentence goes on, you sort of fit in what the subject, the verb and object is. So yeah, so certain countries which have again associate Belarus with the conflict in Ukraine. We want to repeat to them, for example. I might, if I was doing so. I mean, I'm thinking if I was doing this, I'd probably hear that. I'd probably say, finally, certain countries who've again associated Belarus with the conflict in Ukraine, I want to repeat to them. That way, you're sort of bringing in that idea of it's dative, isn't it? Отдельным странам, it's to them. Once again, the Belarusian armed forces are not participating in it. Okay, then what did you say here? Don't try to basically перекладывать ответственность. What did you say to put the responsibility? Transfer, shift responsibility. I mean, it's basically saying don't try and blame us for your actions. If you're in a hurry and if the speaker's going fast, you can synthesize that down to just sort of blame. Don't blame us for your actions, including, what do we say, supplies of lethal weaponry, weapons, and mercenaries to a war zone, which does nothing to bring peace closer on Ukrainian soil. Okay. All right. And then there's quite a short statement. What we'll do just to finish is, again, I found another Russian statement that I thought we could do. Give me one sec. So this is actually from that same meeting on Yemen that I took that French, or that Gabonese one from. So who wants to go have a go? Gwen?
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna crack at it.
Gwen?
Sometimes,
You hear me?
yeah. Sometimes I need to look at quite a few of the specific vocab in Russian, but I'll try. So this case it would be Mr. President still, I think.
Yep. Security Council, yeah.
Yeah, we'd like to thank the special envoy for the UN Secretary General for Yemen.
The SESG, that's something you'll sometimes hear at the UN. SRSGs and SE. In this case, I think it's the special envoy, so it's an SESG. You tend to hear more. There's more SRS, Spitz-Vitel. You'll also hear. So if you ever hear them talking about SRSGs or SESGs, that's what that acronym means.
Okay. For Yemen, Hans Grundberg and the Assistant Secretary. Would this be Assistant Secretary General?
So in Russian, it is. Yeah. It's an assistant. Yeah.
Okay, a bit more straightforward than that. The Assistant Secretary General, Joyce Misuya, for the report on the development of political and humanitarian situation in Yemen.
Okay, I'll just give you a couple of quick tips when it comes to tricky names. So one thing you can do with a tricky name is you follow you follow what the speaker's saying really closely, and then you just turn off the mic when he gets to the name, and that way the audience just hears his mangled version of the name rather than your mangled version. That's one thing to do. Or again, if you can just say something, again, it's either doing a tour de table, all the delegations are speaking, and so if you just to say, I want to thank the SRSG on Yemen for their state and the ASG for their statements, you just sort of tactically avoid saying their names. Okay, it all depends on the context. If lots of people have been saying the name before anyway, everyone knows who the words are being addressed to. You just have to sort of so that's two things you can do if you like hear this name and you're like, ooh, what's that?
Okay. Well, say that I turned off mic and then they reported that back. So it needs to be stated that the political, could we go for situation or environment?
I would always say situation. Yeah.
Situation in the country has reached a period of stagnation.
Okay. Vynujden, so the Russians will often start state sentences with vynujden. This is typical thing, the vynujden konstatiru. We're forced to note. I won't play around with that much. It pains me to say. I mean, that's something we say quite a lot in English, right? It pains me to say, as an alternative potentially.
The speed of the Yemen settlement.
Yep.
Which we have seen, which we have observed recently, is slowing down.
Okay, it's slowing down. Yeah, they love talking about the settlements. So you'll see, like when they talk about the Middle East. So how in English we say the Middle East peace process. Okay, so in Russians we'll often refer to it as the Bliznovostochne uregulирование, and they'll sometimes say the BVU. Okay, Bliznovostochne uregulирование, the Middle East settlement. They don't quite have the same vocabulary almost that we use in English. That's just something to look out for. So, okay, go on.
From the extension of the ceasefire in June, between the leading presidential council and the Ansar Allah movement.
Go on, just till the end of the sentence.
Oh, yeah. It's now been a month. Wait, sorry.
Yeah, it's been a month.
Yeah,
right?
or could we just go for there was That's a bit too simplistic. There
A
was
month, we'd put it in English, say, a month has come and
passed.
gone.
Okay, a month has come and gone. Does that sound too stilted? Like from
Well, I'm
the
just saying
moment
that
of it?
a month. We can say a month has passed. I'm just thinking that if an English speaker might say, it's a month has come and gone since this process started.
Okay, but no marked change has been observed, or no
Подвижек,
marked
you
movement.
want? I would say progress, but there's not yet been any significant progress. So it's the руководящим президентским советом. The council is led by the president. Okay, between the led by the president. Oh no, is that actually no? Oh no. Actually, I'd have to find out what this group is called. Okay, that's got a technical name to it. The Presidential Council. Between the Presidential Council. Are there any Russian native speakers among you? Margarita. What would you say? What would you say that was?
I've already Googled it. It's the Presidential Leadership Council.
The Presidential Leadership Council. Oh, there you go. Presidential leadership. I haven't done Yemen stuff. I hardly do. So, Presidential Leadership Council and the Ansar Allah movement. Okay. Well, Margarita, go on. Do you want to do the rest of that sentence? Предыдущий опыт наглядно продемонстрировал.
Previous experience has clearly shown that the parties can reach an agreement in principle.
The parties, right? Very good.
We hope that the differences will be overcome, and we hope that they will overcome their differences and strengthen their mutual trust.
Okay, overcome their differences, surmount their differences. Okay, we hope that we trust that they will overcome their differences. Trust is maybe a slightly register higher than hope for. Strengthen mutual trust. Go on. Do one more sentence.
Unfortunately, the issue regarding opening transportation. I don't know what that is like.
Like transport
basically road
transport link. I think you just said
links,
transport links. Transport link
in the city of Taiz is still in stalemate.
Okay, so unfortunately, the issue of the opening of a transport links with the city of Taiz, are still okay. This is you need to have something for tupik here. Yeah, you said in a stalemate. Yeah, deadlocked. I will often say deadlocked. Yeah, for tupik. When I hear tupik, the first thing I tend to think of is deadlock. But yes, stalemate. Yeah, the peace process is for tupik, stalemate. Paralyzed. You want these ideas? Paralyzed, stalemate, limbo.
In this regard, we would like to note that the lack of flexibility might lead to a new wave of mutual accusations.
Okay. Okay, that's one thing. That's the kind of thing maybe you can just skip. Just if you're going fast again, we'd like to. I mean, okay, you can definitely say in that respect. So that just to bear in mind that if you're in trouble, that's the kind of thing you might be able to drop. So the lack of flexibility from the parties could yeah. What did you say? You said
might lead to a new wave.
Okay. Okay, maybe it could spill over into another. Okay, взаимное обвинение. That's something they talk about quite a bit in Russian, I've noticed. And what you say, like mutual accusations, okay, is maybe the most obvious thing to say. But also think about the word. We have a word in English, right? Recriminations. you talk about recriminations. That's a good one word that sums up what can be a lot of words in a different language, could spill over into I think recriminations could almost cover that whole thing. So just an idea. And Rosario, is there anyone else I've left out? Has anyone, is there anyone who I've accidentally been, has Todd, he's got the Italian in that case.
Yeah. I think everyone who's got Russian is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rosario, why didn't you finish off? С другой стороны.
On the other hand, any further action.
Уступки, it's not actions, it's a bit more than actions.
I've forgotten what уступок is. Уступки.
Concessions.
Say it again, sorry.
And at this point, unfortunately, the connection went dead. But the answer to the big question at the end there, so the word уступки in Russian is concessions, okay? Don't play around with that. That's one of those words that pretty much always going to be concessions. Уступки, concessions. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Everyone who's watched it, everyone who attended. If you did, please do smash the like button. Please do subscribe. Please put in the comments section any new words, phrases, techniques that you learnt in today's episode. The comments help me greatly with the algorithms, or that's what it says on the internet anyway. The algorithms, apparently. So yes, links in the description box if you want to practice the texts yourselves. And all that remains for me to say is that episode 138 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.
The train